Now, one thing that drives me absolutely crazy is the fraying of fabric. When I'm cutting it or when I'm sewing it. And we're going to use a product called 504 latex glue, which is a fabric glue. It'll glue fabric to fabric, or in this case, it'll stop fraying. So if we draw a line on our fabric, we could always put a small bead of the fabric glue on there, and then using a tool such as this regulator, we could spread that glue right on that line, and therefore when that line dries, we could cut right on that line, and that should eliminate any fraying. Now, the beauty of latex glue is that it dries clear, so if you happen to drop some on the fabric, let it dry, it'll dry clear, and then you could just pick it off. Now, as you can see, as I'm spreading this glue on the line, it's drying almost automatically. And now if we just fast forward a bit until it is dry, there we go, then we can cut our line. Now you'll see once we cut our line, there will no longer be any fraying. And you can pick up latex glue at any fabric store, and they usually carry it there. I've seen it under various names. Speed Sew is one of the brand names. There we go, no fraying. Now the tools we're going to require for attaching this button will be scissors, this formidable looking needle, although you don't need one quite that long, of course our buttons, and a piece of heavy duty nylon twine, or just a twine that won't break. And let's just thread one end of the twine through the eye of the button. Then the two loose ends will go through the eye of the needle. That almost sounds like a movie, doesn't it? Now, finding where we want to place our button, I'm just going to eyeball this for now. Now make sure your hand is not on the other side, otherwise, ouch. We just put that needle through and pull the button and the thread through. Now there are various different knots we could use to tie the button. I'm going to be showing you what I consider probably the easiest knot. And it's a knot that we use almost every day when we tie our shoes. So we're just going to thread the eye of the button here. And then a simple knot. Now as we pull it as much as we want the button to depress into the fabric. Once we're satisfied with the depth, then we'll make a couple of knots, the same as before. 2 knots should do it. And then we'll just cut off the loose ends. And that will complete our button. Now there we go. Wasn't that easy? Now when it comes to straight fabrics, if you wish to avoid the hassle of trying to match your piping with your top and bottom fabric, you can cut the piping diagonally. This way you're avoiding the match, and also it looks quite interesting. This becomes personal preference. But we're just going to sew a piece of diagonal piping onto our top and bottom piece of striped fabric. Now the downside to cutting your piping diagonally is that it uses up a lot more fabric, and there's more waste. So bear that in mind when you're ordering your fabric. You can see that we'll be placing the diagonal piping in between our 2 panels of fabric, sewing them together as we would sew any cushion. And there we go. That completes our diagonal piping. Now in almost every upholstery job we do, we're going to have some little wrinkle. And in this toss pillow you can see we have some wrinkles that we just can't pull out. So a very quick and easy method to eliminate those is to use a steam iron. Now we never put the iron right on the fabric without first of all testing the fabric itself. Because there are certain synthetic fabrics such as nylons and polyesters, they'll literally melt. So we're just going to test it out on a scrap piece of fabric here. Give it ample heat. Make sure there's no discoloration or burning or melting. And in this case, this is turning out pretty well. So once we're satisfied that the iron will not hurt the fabric, then we can just apply the iron and a little bit of steam right to the wrinkle itself. Now, my iron here has the advantage of having a steamer built into it, so just give it a good shot of steam, and already you can see those wrinkles disappearing. And now once we pull the iron away, there we go, you can see those wrinkles have almost entirely disappeared. Now this little method that I'll show you applies to seat cushions or any fabric that you have to sew on a diagonal. Now this is a classic shape of a window seat cushion, and you can see how the sides are angled. Now if we try to sew this on the sewing machine, chances are this angled area will stretch and it'll look quite unsightly. So a very quick and easy method to eliminate that is to, on the underside of the fabric, apply just a little bit of masking tape right along the edge. Now that angle will not go anywhere when you sew it, and it'll turn out perfect every time. Now this is the upholsterer's secret friend, which is a common 3-inch skewer. And we use this needle in almost every bit of upholstery that we do, just as a finishing little technique. Because regardless of what we're upholstering, whether it's a chair or toss pillows, there will always be a little hollow spot where the padding didn't quite make it. So what we do is we take that pin and we just move the padding into the corner, filling out any little hollow spots that we might see or any unsightly wrinkle. And this is called regulating the fabric. And all upholsterers, trust me, do it. Now ideally when you're regulating the fabric, you try to find a bit of a pattern, and that's where you stick your needle, just so it makes the entrance hole a little less noticeable. So you can see that when I am regulating this, I'm going right on the edge of a pattern. So if there is a slight hole that's made, you probably won't see it. And again, with these flutes, I'm just regulating the padding into place, just to make sure that it's turning out perfect. And this should be the last thing you do, because we know you want your job to turn out perfect.